Echo suppressor for long delay echoes, that is greater than 50 milliseconds. Generally, short delay echoes are controlled by using attenuators, and the long delay ones by echo suppressors or echo cancellers. The CCITT recommends the use of echo suppressors or cancellers if the round trip delay exceeds 50 milliseconds. Use of echo suppressors is mandatory in satellite circuits as the round trip delay involved is several hundred milliseconds. Discuss about the echo canceller for long delay echoes greater than 50 milliseconds. Generally, for delays up to 50 milliseconds, simple attenuators in the transmission path limit the loudness of echo to a tolerable level. The attenuation required increases as the delay increases. Here we discuss about singing between the talker and listener. Those are disturbed. The operation of an echo suppressor are voice activated attenuators. Normally, the echo suppressors remain in a deactivated state, that is, the attenuators are bypassed. Speech in one channel activates the echo suppressors in the return path. A's speech activates the echo suppressor EB and B's speech EA. The situation when B is talking and A is silent. Shall A attempt to talk at this juncture? His talk is also attenuated. He can, however, turn off the echo suppressor by interrupting B loudly. The echo suppressor is deactivated automatically a few milliseconds after the talker stops speaking. One drawback of echo suppressors is that they may clip the beginning portion of speech segments. If subscriber A begins talking at the tail end of B's speech, his talk is not transmitted until the echo suppressor have had time to reverse directions. New designs of echo suppressors attempt to minimize the time required to reverse directions. Generally, if repeated multiple reflections occur, oscillations are produced and a condition known as singing is said to exist. Singing occurs if the loop gain at some frequency is greater than unity. If the loop gain is close to but less than unity, damped oscillations or near singing conditions result. Singing or near singing conditions have a disturbing effect on both the talker and the listener. Signaling systems link the variety of switching systems, transmission systems, and subscriber equipments in a telecom network. To enable the network to function as a whole, three forms of signaling are involved in a telecom network. First one is subscriber loop signaling. Second one is intra-exchange or register signaling. And third one is inter-exchange or inter-register signaling. In a telephone network, subscriber loop signaling depends upon the type of telephone instrument used. Signaling techniques, we have two divisions. First one is in-channel signaling and second one is common channel signaling. Coming to in-channel signaling, there are four subdivisions. First one DC, second one low frequency, third one voice frequency, and fourth is PCM. Whereas in common channel signaling, there are two subdivisions. First is associated and second one is non-associated common channel signaling. Coming to in-channel signaling, which comes under the voice frequency, and there are two subdivisions in voice frequency. One is in-band and other is out-band voice frequency in-channel signaling. In signaling techniques, there are two major classes. Those are in-channel and common channel. Different types of signaling techniques exist in each of these two classes. In-channel signaling, also known as per trunk signaling, uses the same channel which carries user voice or data to pass control signals related to that call or connection. In contrast, CCS does not use the speech or the data path for signaling. It uses a separate common channel for passing control signals from a group of trunks or information paths. In-channel signaling has the merit that no additional transmission facilities are required for signaling, whereas this is not the case with CCS. Clearly, in-channel signaling is influenced by the various factors associated with the information path. This brings about different forms of in-channel signaling. When an unamplified audio line plant which permits an individual metallic signaling path per speech circuit is used, DC signaling can be applied. The DC signaling is relatively simple, reliable and cheap. However, where amplified audio circuits are in low frequency, AC signaling may be adapted. Low frequency AC signaling and DC signaling cannot be provided when FDM transmission systems are used. In such cases, voice frequency signaling is used. A digital signaling scheme is desired for TDM systems. The trend in modern networks is to provide enhanced signaling facilities for the subscriber, the switching system and the telephone administration. Such a need is met by common channel signaling, which may be implemented in two ways: channel associated mode and channel non-associated mode. In common signaling, channel closely tracks the trunk groups along the entire length of fake connection. A CCS network consists of two types of nodes: signaling transfer points STPs and signaling points SPs. The signaling transfer points usually have a connection with the switching centers, although this is not essential. Since signaling originates from the control subsystems of the switching centers, these subsystems are referred to as SPs from the CCS signaling viewpoint. Signaling point is capable of handling control messages directly addressed to it, but is incapable of routing messages. Signaling transfer point is capable of routing messages and could also perform the functions of a SP. In the non-associated mode of operation, the signaling information may follow a route that is different from the one taken by the speech path as shown in figure. The signaling path for the speech paths A-B and B-C are A-C-D-B and B-D-C respectively. The network topologies for the signaling and the speech networks are different. There is no switching center at the point D and only a STP is present. This approach offers flexibility as far as the CCS network is concerned. The signal message may be transferred between the two end switching systems via any available path in the CCS network according to its own routing principles. This, however, demands a more comprehensive scheme for message addressing than is needed for channel associated signaling. A CCS network may be used associated signaling in some parts and non-associated signaling in other parts. The term quasi-associated signaling is used to indicate such an operation. Quasi-associated signaling may also imply simplified signal routing over predefined paths. The signaling paths are not associated but are fixed for given speech connections. The range of CCI-TT specified in-channel signaling systems reflect the international signaling requirements to meet the continually changing conditions of the international network. The CCI-TT in-channel signaling systems and the signaling techniques used in each of them along the applications are presented in table shown. The early systems SS1, SS2 and SS3 are of historical interest only. At present, interest in the international in-channel signaling is confined to SS4, SS5 and SS5 bis, and in the regional systems to R1 and R2. The other signaling systems of interest is the PCM signaling. The international signaling systems SS4, SS5 and SS5 bis adopt in-band signaling using a combination of two voice band frequencies or a single voice frequency. In additional systems SS5 and SS5 bis use multi-frequency MF signaling for inter-register signaling, whereas in SS4 there is no separate inter-register signaling, and a compound signal of two voice frequencies is less likely to be given by the speech than a single frequency of equal duration, and thus provides a better talk-off performance. In system SS4, the 2VF compound signal is usually used as a preparatory or prefix signal element to the control element, which comprises single frequency pulse or pulses of either of the two signaling frequencies. The transmission of single frequency may be short or a long. The transmitted durations and recognition times at the receiver end for the signaling elements in SS4 are given in table. The timings for SS4 signaling elements. Some sample control signals and their associated codes in SS4 are shown in table. The digits of the dialed number are transmitted as binary codes of 4 elements. One of the two frequencies, 2040 Hz, represents a binary 1, and the other 2400 Hz represents a binary 0. The pulse duration are 35 plus or minus 7 milliseconds, with a gap of similar time between the pulses. As shown in the table, the symbols used are: P is for prefix element, X1 is 2040 Hz long, Y1 is 2400 Hz long, and XS is 2040 Hz short, and YS is 2400 Hz short. The control signals in SS4 consist of the digits of the dialed number. transmitted as binary codes of 4 elements. Binary 1 represents 2040 Hz and binary 0 represents 2400 Hz, and the pulse duration is 35 plus or minus 7 milliseconds, and the gap between neighbor digits is 35 plus or minus 7 milliseconds. In SS5, the line signaling comprises either a compound of the two VH frequencies or a continuous single frequency. Inter-register signaling uses 2 out of 6 MF code. Initially, the system was jointly developed by UK Post Office and the Bell Laboratories for dialing over time assigned speech interpolation, which is called as TASI, equipped transatlantic cables. This was the first application of intercontinental dialing and of TASI equipment. The system specified by the CCITT as a standard in 1964 and has since found increasing applications in other parts of the world. Most of the Atlantic, Pacific and Indian Ocean circuits use SS5 at present. In view of the high cost of trans-ocean cables and the need to utilize the cables as efficiently as possible, TASI was considered essential for these cables. The design feature of SS5 was dedicated by TASI requirements. In SS5, the techniques used to maintain trunk channel association during the signaling period. Inter-register signaling carries address information could be far too slow if continuous compelled signaling is adapted. Pulse signaling is preferred here, and two different techniques are used to maintain trunk channel association during the signaling period. Those are, the first one is the address information is transmitted as a block after gathering all the address bits, and the gaps are ensured to be less than the speech detector hangover time. And the second one is address digits are transmitted as and when they arrive, and a lock tone is transmitted during the gaps. The lock tone method permits overlapped operation of digits during receiving and transmission. It reduces the post-dialing delay. The trunk, however, is not used as efficient as in the blocking transmission. A standard method of transferring signaling information between the switching equipment and the signaling equipment is required for all signaling systems. One such standard is provided by ear and mouth, that is E&M control. E&M leads constitute a standard interface for delivering and accepting uniform signal conditions. There are three types of E&M interfaces: types 1, 2 and 3. In type 1, interface has two leads, one for each direction of transmission. This interface was primarily developed for electromechanical exchanges. The M lead carries DC signals from the switching equipment to the signaling equipment to operate the outgoing part of the signaling terminal, as illustrated in figure. The E lead carries DC signals from the incoming part of the signaling terminal to the switching equipment. Thus, signals from exchange A are carried on M line and received on E lines at exchange B. Similarly, from exchange B to A. In type 2, E and M interface is a 4-wire fully looped interface and is the preferred one for electronic switching systems. In type 3, there is a compromise between type 1 and 2 and uses a 3-wire partially looped arrangement. The CCI-TT R2 signaling system combines an outband line signaling system and an inter-register MF signaling system. Outband signaling includes DC, low frequency AC, in-slot PCM and signaling above the effective speech band. But in practice, the term outband is applied to systems based on AC signaling using frequencies above the upper frequency limit of the effective speech band, that is above 3400 Hz, and within the 4 kHz speech channel spacing. Outband signaling is generally performed only in the FTM transmission environment. In FTM systems incorporating outband signaling, the channel bandwidth is divided into a speech subchannel and a signaling subchannel using suitable filters. Usually a single frequency signaling is used. A 4-wire circuit is used for forward and backward signaling paths, and for full duplex operation the frequency is chosen to lie approximately midway between two adjacent channels, and the CCI-TT recommends 3825 Hz.